All right, hello class. So today I'm going to be talking about books 4, 5, and 6 of the Aeneid, particularly book 6, as is going to act as our bridge into um, Dante's Inferno, which was going to be the next text that we're going to cover. So book 4, when we left Aeneas in book 3, he had arrived in Carthage, and Dido takes notice of him. And after hearing this story, she becomes infatuated with him, and so her love for him starts to build. Some of the projects in Carthage to rebuild the city kind of stall because um, she had been overseeing that. And the goddess Juno, if you'll recall, was very much dedicated to Carthage and its ascension. She takes notice of this, and she can tell that Venus had gotten involved. Now, on the one hand, this disruption to her city could be something that would bother her. This is her, city that's kind of built in her honor, and she wants it to be very impressive and everything. And so Aeneas coming in has kind of disrupted that. But she also sees it as an opportunity. If Dido were to marry Aeneas, that would delay him and keep him from Rome, which is what she was trying to prevent from, in the first place. And so she actually, Juno actually approaches Venus and wants to work that out. Venus feels like they should check with Jupiter first, and then Jupiter does actually eventually hear from it through rumor with a capital R. So again, personification's pretty common here. Rumor is actually an embodied deity, but in any case, word of this match makes its way to a North African king named Larbus, who had been rejected by Dido. His father is Jupiter. He complains to Jupiter about this, and Jupiter investigates it through Mercury. Mercury being Hermes, messenger god. So he goes down, and and Mercury actually asks Aeneas what's going on, and he asks him to think about his legacy, to sort of remember his duty. Last time I talked about how Aeneas was known for piety, and so he's trying to get him to refocus on that. So he starts to make plans to leave. He makes these preparations in secret, doesn't tell Dido, but Dido does find out about it. She doesn't take it well. He says that he needs to found this city. His father is haunting his dreams about it. It's just something that he needs to do. And Aeneas's father, by the way, as I mentioned last time, had died on the journey, but he keeps appearing to him in dreams. Okay, so Dido is upset. She goes off. She tries to get them to at least wait for favorable winds, and he's not going to wait. He's going to leave, and she decides to commit suicide as sort of in protest of this. And if you recall, she had been kind of put I mean, she had an infatuation for Aeneas, but if you recall, Cupid intervened and kind of enhanced that in her. So she becomes this figure, this classical figure of this scorned lover, and she's actually going to appear in Dante's Inferno. But it really, a lot of it wasn't really her fault that she had this level of um, need for Aeneas. That those emotions were essentially enhanced supernaturally. But in any case, she um, does decide to kill herself. She prays that Aeneas's mission will fail and her people and his will become enemies. This is a prophecy of Virgil's contemporary history, meaning that Carthage and Rome were at war, and they uh, the origin of that war mythically is this failed relationship between Aeneas and Dido. So Dido has a pyre built. She climbs on top of it, stabs herself with a sword that was given to her by Aeneas, and the pyre um, lights on fire, and um, Dido dies. So that essentially is book 4. So what that does is in book 5, Aeneas, as he's sailing away, he sees a fire burning on the shore. Aeneas suspects what that's from, and this journey does essentially seem to be cursed, because every time they start sailing, they run into storms and difficulties. Okay, so they land in Sicily. They're trying to get to Italy, but they only make it to Sicily, and this is the exact spot where they buried Anchises, his father. So it's kind of symbolic that they're not really making a lot of progress on their journey. They're essentially backtracking, and so while he's there, he makes some ritual offerings to his father. Something kind of strange happens. A snake comes out and curls up around the burial mound. It starts to eat objects, and he's wondering if this is some kind of a sign. So he decides to host some games, like Olympics, basically. And why does he do this? Well, seemingly and this is a kind of long section that goes through all these different contests, like boat races, archery, etc. So there's probably a couple of reasons why he does this. There's a sort of ritual significance to hosting the games to kind of honor the gods. He's looking for a favorable outcome for his journey. He's also trying to keep his men occupied. He's a pretty strong leader, and this journey is not going well. So he's going to try to make the best of things there in Sicily while they regroup. Now, while they're doing this, the Trojan women are tricked by someone to burn the ships, and so while the men are occupied, they hatch this plan to to basically burn these ships. And Iris is sent by Juno to do this. So she's a deity who's loyal to Juno. So again, Juno is trying to disrupt this trip, make sure that these guys can't leave Sicily. She is a kind of messenger goddess as well, but she takes the form of a human here, and she rallies these women to go to burn the ships. Okay, so they try to do that, and they're confused at first, but they go along with it. She's very convincing. And okay, so Aeneas sees what's going on. He prays to Jupiter. He tells Jupiter, strike me dead or save my ships. And Jupiter brings up a storm. He saves the ships, and that's it. Okay, so this kind of jumpstarts him a bit, that he needs to get to Italy. There's no place. There's going to be no rest. Everywhere he goes, that he's going to be tormented until he can get to Italy. So to speed them up, and because of the ships he lost, he decides to leave the women and the old there in Sicily. He gets some advice on this from a man named Nantes, and who says that they can found a new city there. And he gets confirmation that he should do this by the image of Anchises that he sees in the sky. So he sees an image of his father in the sky, and he decides to do this. So because they're likely to face war in Italy, he decides that he's only going to take his toughest warriors. Okay, so this is where he gets a vision that he's going to need to go to the underworld, and he's going to be able to make it to Italy because his mother Venus had secured safe passage from Neptune. Neptune says that he'll get there safely. He's only going to lose one man, so he is going to lose one man, but not his ships. And that pretty much is book 5. He does lose Palinurus. So Palinurus is his friend. He falls off the ship. So he kind of laments his loss, but Neptune keeps his promise. And then in book 6, we're going to see them actually make it to Italy. So they get to Italy. Now, book 6 is kind of the key book for our purposes in the course, because this is his journey to the underworld. And okay, so when he gets there to Italy, he first goes to the cave of the Sibyl, who is a prophetess, and she is a deity of Apollo, and that's who gives her his power. This temple was built by Daedalus. You might remember Daedalus from the story of Icarus. He built the wings with wax, and Icarus, flew too high, and the sun melts the wax, and he fell into the sea. That same Daedalus. Okay, so anyway, he goes there to this temple, And he's instructed to sacrifice 7 bulls and 7 ewes. And he does that. And once he's there, the Sibyl becomes possessed by the god Apollo, who then instructs Aeneas to pray. And this is my image back behind me. This is from book 6. So this is what's about to happen. And okay, so Sibyl lays out some prophecies for him, talks again about Italy, the wars he's going to face. So Aeneas is consistently given this advantage that he knows what's going to happen. He's not always given an exact account of what's going to happen, but he knows what he's going to face. The Sibyl also arranges for him to go visit his father. He's going to be allowed to descend into the underworld. Why is he going to visit his father? Well, there's wisdom that he has that he can convey to him. There's knowledge that he'll need. So essentially, it's in preparation for what he needs to achieve in Italy. That's why he's going to go down into the underworld. Now, there's a couple of details here that are going to correspond to what we're going to see in Dante. So I'm going to go over that. So that to get to the underworld, he needs to go deep into a forest, the deepest and darkest part of the forest, and he needs to find a tree that sprouts a golden bow, a branch, basically. He needs to pluck that and bring it as a gift to Proserpina, a queen of the underworld. She says only those who are fated can pluck this branch. It won't come off for those who try to force it. So he has to be essentially worthy to that. And the Trojans at this point, she also says, as have become defiled. They need to purify themselves. They have a number of dead who've remained unburied. They have to find out who it is, bury him, sacrifice animals. And at this point, Aeneas, once this act purifies his entire people, then he can go into the underworld. And okay, so Aeneas tries to make arrangements for that. It actually is not Palinurus who was unburied, but a man named Maecenas who had drowned, and so he needs to make arrangements for him. And so he does it. He goes and finds this golden bow. He's trying to do all the different tasks that she calls for, and it's going to be the Sibyl who guides him to the underworld. He can't really go himself. He wouldn't know where to go. And this presence of a guide is something we're going to see in Dante. Okay, so they approach the river Styx, and there are hundreds of souls assembled there waiting to be ferried by Charon, the boatman of the underworld. Aeneas, at this point, catches sight of his lost pilot, Palinurus, one of the unburied dead who's crowding the bank. And Palinurus asks Aeneas to bury him, or he says, "Take me across with you." Sibyl cuts him off, says, "We can't take you." but she does say that the people who killed him are going to actually bury him. So he didn't drown. Uh, Aeneas thought he drowned, but he came on shore, and some native peoples had killed him. Okay, so anyway, so he has that encounter, and Karen, does take them across. Karen's kind of not exactly comfortable taking a living person into the underworld, but the golden bow was enough to persuade him that he needs to do that. Aeneas, though, he's trying to see his father. He sees a bunch of dead people. He sees Dido, and he tells her he's sorry, that it wasn't his fault for leaving. He was doing the god's bidding. And Dido won't listen to him. She instead runs off to join her dead husband. Aeneas, he sees some dead Trojan warriors down there. So this is sort of a retelling of the Trojan War, because he's going to see all these people who had died there. He hears about the different parts of hell, and this is where Virgil is distinct from Homer, and we've talked about this in class, where hell has all of these different spaces to it. And so he learns about Elysium, he learns about Tartarus, and that geography of hell that we see in Virgil is what helps to structure Dante's version of hell. So this is really his source material. And okay, so then he gets to Elysium, and he finally runs into his father. So they share a reunion, and this is a space where souls are waiting to be reborn. So we learn a little bit more about this version of the afterlife. He gets Anchises gives him a kind of vision of Rome. So this whole motif of rebirth is setting up these points that he's going to make, that a lot of the future, like these great souls that are reborn, become these great people from Roman history. So he sees Caesar Augustus. He sees Marcellus and all these other figures from Roman history. And so this vision that his father is giving him of the future is really a vision of Rome's past. And so Anchises is really trying to solidify for him the importance of his success. So all of this, all of these figures, all of this history, all these great things that are going to happen, can only occur if he achieves his mission. So all of that, his meeting with his father, is all about centering the text back on Rome and Roman history. I've talked about this before as a type of state propaganda, and that's really what occurs here in Book 6. That it's about not just about Aeneas's immediate future and what he needs to do, but what's at stake in that. So he needs to forget about Dido. He needs to forget about all the troubles he's seen along the way, the people he's lost, the people he's left behind, and he needs to focus on his goal. And so that is really about what Book 6 is setting up. So it's kind of it's a turning point. It's going to set us up for this rising action of the Aeneid, where he seeks out his goals. He's going to confront these wars he needs to fight, with the ultimate goal of founding a city that's going to lay the foundation for the Roman Empire. Okay, so that'll conclude what I've assigned from the Aeneid. I will talk a little bit about what else happens in the text, but I'm going to turn our attention in class to Dante's Inferno. So that's what we're going to be looking at next time. And the only graded assignment this week is the quiz over book 6. So make sure that you do read or reread book 6, and that will be what you're assigned for this week. And for next time, I'm assigning Dante's Inferno, cantos 1 through 3. And instead of an in-class writing assignment, we're going to do a discussion board. So I will have that set up for us. And response paper 3, which will cover Dante's Inferno, is going to be due on April 19th. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But the reading assignment for next time, just cantos 1 through 3. Canvas has a link to the full text version of that, so you don't need to purchase a book or anything. You can read it there. Okay, so that will conclude our Zoom recording today. I will be back next week, and I will be talking about Dante's Inferno.